So I'm kind of late to this, I know, but you're on Seal's channel and I'm late to literally everything. And I'm genuinely surprised I didn't find this out sooner, because this is pretty cool news for me. But I only just now found out today. So Little Nightmares 3 has been confirmed, which is pretty cool. It's finally put to rest all the uncertainty revolving around the franchise over the past 2 years on whether there was going to be something made after Little Nightmares 2, with Tarsier leaving the IP behind and all. And yes, it looks like there is. An announcement trailer was released on August 22nd by Bandai Namco, and it looks pretty cool. So, despite my love for the franchise, I only just now found out about this today, earlier this morning, like I said, and that's because I haven't really followed anything Little Nightmares related in quite a while now, and that's mostly because there hasn't really been a lot made about the franchise over the past 2 years. At least from what I've seen. There's been content made about it, yeah, but it hasn't really gotten a lot of attention. And I always found that kind of sad because Little Nightmares 2 was a pretty cool game and a massive improvement over the first game. And it didn't really get that long in the spotlight. It kind of went dark after the first couple of months, and then there hasn't really been much made about it over the past 2 years. And I always thought that was kind of sad. So I didn't really follow anything Little Nightmares related after a while. And you can also partially thank this game for kind of taking over my life back in 2021. But anyway, so I only just now found out about this earlier today because I was scrolling through my Steam account and just clicked on the Little Nightmares tab. And keep in mind, I haven't played Little Nightmares in 2 years. Neither Little Nightmares or Little Nightmares 2, I haven't played either of them in 2 years. So I just clicked on this randomly, and I saw that the latest news was about a podcast, the Sounds of Nightmares podcast series they're doing, and that kind of confused me. One, because this is, a series with no spoken dialogue, except for Mono and Six saying hey and hi to each other in the second game. But other than that, there's no spoken dialogue in the franchise, so how are they making a podcast based off of a franchise with no spoken dialogue? So that kind of confused me. But also because new Little Nightmares stuff? What? Huh? When did this happen? And this was the first games tab. This wasn't even the second game. I clicked on the first games tab, and then right under it, I saw the announcement trailer for Little Nightmares 3. And that, boom, mind blown. What is this? When did this happen? Where did this come from? What? But, yeah, so I watched it, and it looks interesting. It looks pretty cool, but I'll talk about that in a minute. So the Steam post opens with, "Are you ready to return to the nowhere, little ones?" Now, call me a fake fan if you want, I guess I deserve it, but I didn't actually know that Nowhere was the name of the world of Little Nightmares, where all the games take place. At first I thought it was the name of the place Very Little Nightmares takes place in, but no, that's the Nest, and I didn't remember that, so I had to look it up. And Nowhere is just everywhere that the game is. It's the world of Little Nightmares. The Pale City, the Maw, the Nest, it's all in Nowhere. And apparently, according to the wiki, the place Little Nightmares 3 takes place in is called the Spiral. So, I didn't know any of that, but give me a break. It's been a long time since I've read up on anything Little Nightmares related, so I'm a little behind on my knowledge here. I'm a little rusty. But anyway, so it continues with, "This time, face your childhood fears together. Follow the journey of Low and Alone as they search for a path that could lead them out of the nowhere." For some reason, this franchise really doesn't like giving these kids names. Low and Alone, Mono and Six, the Runaway Kid, whatever the comic characters were called. Like, I think they were just number named as well, 5 and all them. They really don't like giving names to these kids. Anyway, the two friends will have to work together to survive in a dangerous world full of delusions and escape the grasp of an even greater threat lurking in the shadows. For the first time in the franchise, face your childhood fears together with a friend in online co-op or in solo with an AI companion. Which is pretty cool that they're adding a multiplayer to it. I may be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure the reason why there wasn't a multiplayer in Little Nightmares 2, even though people thought there would be with Mono and Six together and all that, was because Tarsier thought that with 2 players it wouldn't be as scary. Like, it'd take away from the scary because there would be two people and they could just screw around and not take the game seriously. I might be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that's the reason as to why there wasn't one. And it looks like that isn't a concern with Little Nightmares 3 here, since there's an online multiplayer. And hearing that, I'm curious to see as to if the game will change at all based on if you're in multiplayer or single player. I assume it probably would, that it might get harder or more complicated with two players compared to just one with an AI. Probably, maybe, I don't know. I feel like they would do that though, because just, that makes sense. Make the game more challenging for more players. But anyway, that's pretty cool that they're gonna have a multiplayer. So, yeah. As for the trailer itself, it looks cool. It looks interesting, showcasing some of the environments of the spiral, introducing Low and Alone, even though I can't tell who's who, I gotta be honest. And then, showing off the very Little Nightmares formula gameplay of running around and solving puzzles, things like that. There are these shots where it cuts to like this mirror or something. It's probably a mirror. And there's like smoke in the background that gets closer every time the camera changes to this shot. And so I'm not sure if that's hinting at the lady making a return, since it seems like a throwback to the lady with the mirror and the smoke and all that. So it seems like it's referencing the lady. So maybe that's a hint that she'll be coming back from the first game. I don't know. And there's also what looks like the guests making a return, so maybe the lady will be coming back as the final boss or a boss in the game. I don't really know. And there's also some new mechanics, it looks like using umbrellas to glide, which, okay, that's cool, I guess. Kind of cartoony, but it's cool. And there's also there's also these shots of like this massive monster that they're hiding from with like broken walls and things. It looks like something right out of Arkham Asylum with the Scarecrow boss fight. It looks pretty cool. Something to obviously point out, as I'm sure everybody else has done as well, is that Six is nowhere in this trailer, and as far as we know, she's not in the game at all. Which, okay, that's odd. That's definitely a new step. Six has been there since the beginning. She's practically the mascot of the franchise. She was the playable protagonist in the first game. She was in both the mobile game and the second game where she assists the player character. She was in the comics that were canceled. She's everywhere. She's practically the protagonist of the franchise itself. Except here, where she's nowhere to be found. Although it does kind of sound like in the background music, it's still Six singing, which maybe it's just because it's the same voice actor, or maybe she'll have some sort of cameo appearance, or will appear later in the game, or will have an Easter egg mentioning her. I don't know. But I feel like with just how big of a role her character has had on the series and the in-game world and everything being there since the beginning, with just how important a role she's played in the series, I feel like there might be some kind of Easter egg mentioning her. Even if she doesn't appear physically in the game, there will at least be an Easter egg mentioning her. Maybe. I don't know. Because, with just how important she's been in the entire franchise, it feels like they can't just... Or, not they can't, but they wouldn't just leave her behind like that. At least leave something mentioning her somewhere in the game. Maybe Mono 2. Or maybe not. Maybe I'm just completely wrong about this. I could very well be wrong about it, and she just won't appear at all. Perhaps it was because this is Supermassive Games developing the game instead of Tarsier Studios, so it's to separate the two companies. They didn't include Six or Mono or anybody else to, separate themselves from Tarsier's work. This is Supermassive Games' work now, not Tarsier's. So it's a difference, and to separate themselves, to make their difference, they remove Tarsier's characters in the game they're developing. Maybe that's the reason. Maybe there isn't a reason at all. I don't know. But all I know is that Six is not in the trailer, and she's not in the game as far as I know. So, yeah. Just wanted to mention that. And then the title does the same thing Little Nightmares 2 did, with the characters becoming the number in the title. So that's kind of cool, although I feel like it worked a lot better with just two characters, with the game being 2 instead of 3, having two characters become the number 3. I don't know. And then it gives us the ballpark release date of 2024. So it's still a year away, at least, or several months up to a year, but it is still happening, so that's pretty cool. As for the Sounds of Nightmares, the podcast, I haven't listened to it yet, so I don't know what that's all about. Although it's kind of odd that there's a podcast made about a game franchise that has no spoken dialogue, but I don't know, maybe they did something really cool here. It's an interesting thing. I haven't heard of a game franchise that makes a podcast before. I haven't heard of that. So maybe I'm just not paying enough attention to games, but that's a completely new concept to me. So I don't know anything about it, but maybe it's good, maybe it's not, I don't know. So, yeah, I just wanted to talk a bit about this. I know that it's a pretty poorly made, bad video, but then again, all my videos are bad. But I just wanted to talk a bit about this because I think it's pretty cool news. To know that Little Nightmares 3 is a thing, it's actually happening, it's in development, that's awesome. That's amazing news. It's great to hear. Uh, I always really liked the Little Nightmares franchise. I like horror games, I like puzzle games every now and then, and I think that it was a really interesting and unique take on puzzle horror games. And I also really like the world building that it does. In a game, in a franchise that has no spoken dialogue, it manages to set up all of its story through world building, and it's so cool to look at the scale of everything and just looking around at like Little Nightmares 2, you see the destruction of the city and you wonder what the hell happened here. And then you look at the monsters. The monsters are so cool. I love everything about it. And the art style is also awesome. The art style is great. So, I always really liked the franchise, and I was always hoping that Little Nightmares wouldn't just fade into obscurity after the second game because Tarsier left the IP. I was always hoping that Bandai would do something with the series. And they are. They're making a third game, so that's great. That's awesome. And what's even cooler is that the third game is being developed by Supermassive Games. That's big. These are the same people who made Until Dawn. That's big. The franchise is in good hands, and I'm really interested to see when it comes out how it will differentiate from Tarsier's work, how the two companies will be separated through their work between Supermassive Games and Tarsier Studios. I'm sure the game will be great with Supermassive, although it will be sad that Tarsier's gone and not working on it. But the franchise is in good hands with Supermassive Studios, or Supermassive Games, I'm sorry. The franchise is in good hands with Supermassive Games. So, yeah. And it's also the fact that I can play it now. I'll actually be able to play the game. I got a new computer a month ago, and so it has a pretty good graphics card in it compared to my last computer, which ran like utter dog shit with a CD player as a graphics card, pretty much. Thing looked right out of the Windows 95 era. Uh, but yeah, it's actually a really good computer compared to my last one, so I'll be ready when the game comes out.